My wife confessed she slept with her friend's husband. Public humiliation and a DUI arrest were her rewards. If this story resonates with you, subscribe to the channel and share in the comments which city you're watching from. We'd love to know where our community is growing. I'm 38. I met my wife, 35, when we were both doing our PhD programs at the same university. That was about 10 years ago. We dated for almost 3 years, then got married. Now we have 3 kids, and we always knew that'd be our limit for having children. We definitely won't have more, not even by accident. I don't know if I've become desensitized to the things people can do to break your heart. I've been through a lot of horrible family situations in the past I won't go into. But when I recently found out she'd been cheating on me, it hurt, though not as much as I expected. Maybe it'll hit me for real in a couple of weeks, and I'll end up crying. Until then, I think I'm handling it pretty well. When I met her, she wasn't a fan of alcohol. She drank occasionally, just like me. She didn't overdo it, even when alcohol was in front of her. I don't know what changed. I don't know if it was the pressure of becoming a mom, because other than that, life had only gotten better for us. She's become too indulgent when there's alcohol. On several occasions, I've had to be the one to set limits for her. I also make sure she's not the one driving. If she's going somewhere, I know there'll be alcohol. It's strange because if she doesn't leave the house for a whole month, she won't touch a drop and is perfectly fine with it. Before you ask, yes, I've tried to help her. I've taken her to support meetings. I don't need them, but I sat with her just to support her. We've also talked about finding a counselor. We've done therapy. She doesn't think she has a problem. She claims she's just having fun when she drinks like that. She's even joked she's trying to build her tolerance. She's the type of person who changes when she drinks too much. She overtalks. I wouldn't say she gets aggressive, but she gets irritated faster with people when she's drunk. She doesn't pass out or throw up. She loses coordination. But she's not the type of drunk who stumbles uncontrollably. I can get her out of places without the situation looking too bad, though it can be very embarrassing. Unfortunately, I recently had a reminder of that, and that was the origin of all the recent problems in my life. We went out to dinner with some friends. The woman is a friend of my wife, and they've been friends for a long time. The man is that friend's husband. I've grown close to him through proximity. He's a friend, but not enough to consider him part of my closest circle. Dinner was at a pretty fancy restaurant we all wanted to try. I knew there'd be alcohol, though I knew her behavior in those situations. I hoped she'd behave. I thought about giving her a pre-talk, but it's never worked, so I didn't. We arrived, ordered food, and they asked if we wanted an appetizer. I tried to politely decline, but I couldn't avoid the situation. From that moment, I knew it was going to be a complicated night. At first it was fine, and luckily the appetizers arrived fast, so she didn't drink on an empty stomach for long. She was still behaving well. We ate, and she had 1 glass of wine with the meal. The problem started when we got to dessert, and after that she had 3 more glasses and even suggested we all have shots to end the night. I know our friends know how she behaves, but maybe since they don't experience it up close like I do, they're not as worried. They agreed, but I quickly suggested we stop drinking at that point. I'd only had 1 drink because I was driving. My wife tried to pressure me into agreeing, saying I was ruining the fun. She was being loud, and I decided if we left fast after the last drink, I could prevent the situation from worsening in public. So I agreed because I didn't want to make a scene. The waiter brought the shots, and the others took theirs. Since they weren't driving, they had no problem drinking. I didn't because I didn't want to overdo it. My wife tried to take my shot seeing I wouldn't drink it, but I firmly stopped her. She became too insistent, even physical, trying to grab it from my hands. So I simply poured it into my dessert plate and firmly told her that was enough for the night. It wouldn't have surprised me if she'd tried to lick it from the plate, but luckily she didn't. What she did do was make a scene. "Are you serious? If you're not going to drink it, let me. Why are you so controlling?" That was extremely embarrassing, and saying that's an understatement. She was shouting, and many people turned to look. I'm sure by saying I was controlling, many drew conclusions about the type of person I am. I couldn't respond to that, and her friends just looked uncomfortable. Her friend tried to calm her, but she wasn't listening. She continued shouting for about 10 more minutes before calming down. I simply asked for the bill and paid immediately. We left the restaurant in less than 5 minutes. I felt completely humiliated. She'd also made a fool of herself, but she'd barely remember it the next day. That's what bothered me most. I was the one who had to bear what she'd done. When we got home, the nanny had already put the kids to bed. I didn't go up to the room with my wife because I needed to calm down. I stayed in the living room, still with my shoes off, try to think how to prevent something like this from happening again. I thought about divorce as an option, but it seemed extreme. Am I being too soft for thinking like this? Is divorce an appropriate response when you still deeply love the person, but their only major flaw is drinking? She's not a full-blown alcoholic, so I still think she's not. I don't know how long I sat there, maybe about 10 minutes. Finally, she came down, already changed in a loungewear. It was clear she was still under the influence. She went to the kitchen and poured herself a glass of wine. It may sound contradictory, but despite everything that had happened that night, I was too tired to argue with her about continuing to drink, though I knew it'd only make things worse. She sat on the floor, crossed her legs, and started drinking. She looked at me with a mischievous expression, which irritated me more than it amused me. After drinking half the glass, she asked me why I was in a bad mood. That definitely triggered me, but I made an effort to contain my anger. It should have been obvious why I was upset. I was tired of always dealing with the same thing every time we went out. I told her we'd talk in the morning. She responded with attitude, and I noticed her mood changing. She said I was being dramatic. She slurred her words so much it was unbearable. Then she said, "You're mad 'cause I slept with my friend's husband." She laughed after saying it, but it didn't seem like a joke. It was a malicious laugh. I wasn't sure if she was just trying to provoke me, probably 'cause I'd tried to control her at the restaurant, but it didn't sound like that. She noticed the change in my face, but didn't try to retract. She just looked at me as if challenging me. I asked her to repeat it, and at that moment, it occurred to me to record her. I took out my phone and asked her to say again what she'd said. "Don't act like you didn't hear me. I slept with my friend's husband, and it was amazing." I knew I had to get all the info I could from her at that moment, when she was drunk and oversharing, but I couldn't get over how angry I was. She'd never been that bad when drinking. She started talking nonsense while I tried to compose myself and not lose control. When I managed to calm down, I asked her if she was admitting she'd cheated on me. She asked me what I'd do if it were true and challenged me to hit her, as if that was something I consider. I asked her how long it had been going on, and she said, "For several years. You keep trying to control me. You'll never be able to control me. In the end, I'll do what I want." In her drunk mind, that made sense. According to her, I was trying to control her by preventing her from having another drink. So she decided to confess an affair with someone very close to us as a way to defy me and show I could never control her. If it weren't happening to me, I probably would have found all this even funny. I know I should have gotten a lot more info at that moment, but I was completely defeated. I didn't feel it made sense to know more than I already knew. It doesn't matter if it was just with him or with 15 other men. Nothing changes 'cause I can't spend the rest of my life with her anymore. After that, I went upstairs, changed clothes, and somehow fell asleep. The next morning, I went downstairs and saw her drinking coffee. She asked me why I hadn't woken her up or taken her to bed. She complained her whole body ached from sleeping on the floor. She noticed my expression and mood and asked what was wrong. She casually commented her head hurt and she'd drunk too much. Then I realized she had no idea of everything she'd said the night before. I didn't answer her questions because I really wasn't ready to start with that yet. The kids would wake up shortly after, and I didn't want to have to deal with any drama in front of them. I have a close friend who's an excellent family lawyer, and I'm going to call him tomorrow to start sorting all this out. I can't stay with my wife. She can lie and say she was just talking nonsense because she was drunk, but she's never been like that. She talks a lot when under the influence, but she doesn't make things up. I'm not going to start believing now that she makes things up, especially in something as serious as this. I'll bring it up before finalizing the divorce, just to see how she tries to defend herself. But for now, I want to be proactive and make sure to protect myself from how the judicial system can harm me when the time comes to separate. Update 1. I posted about my wife, who, while drunk, told me she was cheating on me with her friend's husband. I originally wanted to confront her with the video I recorded of her confession, but I decided not to cause I knew her response would be to say it was drunk nonsense. I didn't want to deal with that. Instead, I decided to do something different. I contacted her friend. It's a friend in question, and I decided to meet with her to tell her what I knew caused that'd be more productive. I also didn't want to directly expose my wife without confirmation, so that was the best approach. Her friend and I are close due to both being close to my wife, but we don't usually spend time together. So she was worried when I told her I had something important to talk about with her. I made it clear it was serious, so I got straight to the point when she arrived. I started by making sure she knew this was about her husband. I think she already suspected it was about infidelity. I told her I had a strong suspicion her husband and my wife were having an affair. Her reaction was immediate. She was in shock. I tried to tell her carefully, but she was still impacted. When she composed herself, she showed doubt. She said it couldn't have happened, that both were very loyal people to her. She could imagine one of them failing, but not both. I told her how I found out. She remembered the night I was talking about, and I explained how my wife behaved when she got home and how she confessed everything on her own. I also showed her the video, so she'd know I wasn't making anything up. I was hurt, but she was devastated to see it. I told her I wasn't completely sure it was true. The good thing is, she knows my wife as well as I do. She knows how she behaves when she's drunk, but she's never been someone who invents things in that state. She had the same doubts as me, that maybe it wasn't true, and she was just trying to provoke me. Still, she told me it'd be much easier for her to check her husband's phone than for me to check my wife's. She said she'd let me know if she found anything to confirm what was said, and then we'd decide what to do. I remember looking at her and thinking I wished we'd been closer before all this fell apart. She's a sensible and nice person. Later, she wrote me saying she'd found something and wanted us to meet to talk. I already knew what it was about, and by deduction, it was clear she'd found something bad. We met at the same coffee shop as last time. She looked much sadder, as if she hadn't slept and didn't care about her appearance. I felt empathy for her, but I also think knowing the truth, however painful, is worth it for long-term peace. She slid her phone towards me and showed me screenshots she'd taken from her husband's phone. There were conversations between him and my wife, full of obvious flirting, but there was one message in particular that confirmed everything. They talked about having been together. Seeing that completely broke me. We shared what we felt for a while, and she got very emotional, which is totally understandable. I finally steered the conversation towards what we could do. We both agreed this would end in divorce. I gave her the contact for the lawyer who was handling my case. I suggested we confront them both at the same time, so they wouldn't have a chance to coordinate stories or invent excuses. She suggested doing it at the same place where we'd had dinner the first time, but I didn't want to go back there. One scene at that place was enough. We chose a more informal place, where there also wouldn't be many alcohol options. We knew we couldn't let my wife get drunk before the confrontation. We went to dinner, ordered food, and each had only one drink. We didn't want to wait too long before facing the situation, cause she knew anxiety would overcome her if it dragged on too long. I understood perfectly. I had a feeling her friend's husband and my wife might notice we weren't our usual selves, but I did my best to act normal and make them believe everything was fine. It was her friend who started. We'd already finished eating, and my wife was already looking for another drink and desserts on the menu. But her friend wasn't going to give her that chance. She said she wanted to say something very important. My wife, you've been my friend for 12 years, and honestly, I can't believe you betrayed me the way you did. Her friend's husband was in shock, cause he had no idea what his wife was doing. My wife was in shock cause she didn't know what she'd done. My husband told me about your affair. I liked the tactic her friend used cause it made both cheaters panic. Her friend's husband's first instinct was to say he hadn't confessed anything, instead of denying the infidelity. My wife's first instinct was to get angry at him for exposing them. It was evident, amidst that chaos, that both realized they'd been cornered. It was too late to try to deny what happened. My wife turned to me, trying to explain it wasn't what it seemed, but it didn't matter anymore. Suddenly, her friend stood up and slapped her husband. The whole place turned to look at us. Then she threw the rest of her drink at my wife. She'd promised me she'd stay calm, but I understood her reaction. For me, too, it was the moment everything became completely real. I already knew the truth, but in that instant it really sank in. I didn't want to stay there with the two cheaters, so when her friend stormed out, I followed her. She'd arrived by rideshare, like the last time we all went out together, so I offered to drive her home. She accepted, and considering I had no interest in driving my wife, I did. She thanked me on the way. She acknowledged how much the whole situation had hurt, but said she was relieved it was coming to an end. I told her I'd be there to support her in whatever she needed. I guess she misinterpreted my words because she kissed me in the car. I let it last a few seconds, but I pulled away because it didn't feel right. I understood where she was coming from, but I felt it was an emotional reaction. I told her it wasn't the right time. I'd never seen her that way before. In normal circumstances, maybe I wouldn't have pulled away, but it just wasn't the time. Fortunately, she wasn't offended. The last few weeks have been chaotic for me, but I hope to put all this behind me soon. Update 2. Since my last post, life has taken a more positive turn. I don't want to go on too long, so I'll be brief. After the confrontation, my wife returned home and began to plead, saying it wasn't what it seemed and she could explain it. I gave her the chance to do so, but nothing she said made sense. She contradicted herself constantly. I made it clear there was no point in lying, because not only had she admitted it while drunk, but there was also proof in the messages. She had nothing to say to that. She realized she was trapped. I told her she had to leave the house, that it was for the best. She hesitated for a moment, as if wanting to object, but she didn't. She simply packed her things and left. During the divorce process, it seemed she resorted to alcohol even more. Not just from the pain of being kicked out and exposed as a cheater, but also from the public campaign her friend started. She made sure to tell everyone who her husband and my wife really were, even posting it on social media. Everything turned into chaos. Honestly, I wouldn't have gone that far, but a part of me was glad someone did because they both deserved it. My wife called me crying. She said her friend was ruining her life. She tried to beg her to stop, but that only angered her more. I found that ironic and told her to stop calling me cause I couldn't help her. I wasn't going to be her emotional support anymore. The most pathetic part of it all was when she drank too much one day and decided to drive. She was driving erratically, and luckily didn't hurt anyone or crash. The police stopped her, and she was arrested for driving under the influence. She called me to pay her bail, which I found ridiculous. I told her to call someone else. I don't know many more details, but I do know that incident played very much in my favor. The divorce process was as you'd expect. I kept the house, though she received money for her share. I also have to pay alimony, but custody was where I really won. That incident made the court view her with a lot of suspicion. They didn't want to risk the kids in a car with her in that state. So while her case is being resolved, I have full custody. I don't want her to completely disappear from our kids' lives, but she'll have to change a lot if she wants to be an active part again. Maybe she will, maybe she won't. Either way, I'll be there for my kids and make sure they don't feel her absence. If someday she's ready to be responsible, I'll accept healthy co-parenting. If not, I'll move on alone. As for her friend and me, I know many wanted to know, but there's nothing between us and probably won't be. It'd be too complicated if at some point I share custody with my wife. They shouldn't be connected in any way anymore, so I'm not going to complicate things further. Either way, we're both free now, and that's what matters. We can start fresh. That rest was practically karma at the perfect time. I secured custody, and it showed my wife can't handle her decisions responsibly. I walked away with the house, custody, and my dignity intact. That's the real victory. My wife's life is a mess created by her own decisions, and I don't have to fix it or put up with it anymore. Now I'm free to move forward, protect my kids, and rebuild my life without the constant chaos she brought. Update 3. Weeks after everything happened, I found out my ex-wife had been released from detention after facing the legal consequences for driving under the influence. I wasn't surprised when she appeared at my door again, but this time there was no arrogance or elaborate excuses. She just looked completely broken. Her face was tired, her eyes dull, and she had an attitude I'd never seen in her before. She asked me to talk. She said she'd hit rock bottom, that she realized everything she'd lost, and that she regretted it. She apologized again and again, assuring me she'd change, that she could fix things, that she wanted us to be a family again. I listened to her in silence for a few seconds, but I felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, not compassion, just a kind of emptiness. When I finally spoke, I didn't raise my voice. It wasn't necessary. I told her she'd already had every possible opportunity, and she destroyed them one by one with her own decisions. I reminded her it wasn't a mistake, but a chain of decisions. The infidelity, the lies, the alcohol, the scandal, the arrest. It had all been her choice. I told her there was nothing to rebuild cause she herself had torn everything down. She tried to approach, even crying, but I stepped back. I made it clear she wouldn't re-enter my life beyond what was strictly necessary for the kids. And even that would depend on her showing real changes over time. At that moment, she wasn't someone I could trust even a little. She left crying, completely defeated, and for the first time she didn't try to argue or justify anything. She just accepted what I said and left. Regarding her friend's husband, the story didn't end well for him either. His wife not only left him, but made sure he faced all possible consequences. He lost his marriage, his stability, and much of what he had. He basically ended up with nothing. As for her friend and me, things changed over time. It wasn't immediate or impulsive. We both needed to heal first, but little by little we started talking more, supporting each other, understanding each other from a place no one else could. Eventually, that turned into something more, something quiet, without chaos, without lies, a closed relationship based on respect and everything we'd both learned after losing everything. I don't know if the correct term is a happy ending, but I do know it's a fair ending. In the end, everyone ended up exactly where their decisions led them. What do you think of this ending? Do you think it was justice, karma, or simply the consequences of their decisions?